Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about a remarkable development in Burkina Faso under the leadership of President Ibrahim Traoré. He has made headlines by reducing ministers' and politicians' salaries by 30%, increasing workers' wages by 50%, and even refusing to accept his own presidential salary. These actions have sparked conversations not only within Burkina Faso, but also across the entire African continent, about what real leadership and economic reforms can look like. In this video and accompanying article, I'll break down what this move means for the country, how it came about, and its potential impact on ordinary citizens. Whether you're watching from Burkina Faso, elsewhere in Africa, or around the world, this story offers a powerful example of a leader who is trying a different approach to governance. To understand why President Ibrahim Traoré's moves are so significant, we should first consider the broader context in which Burkina Faso finds itself. Over the past few years, the country has grappled with economic difficulties, security challenges, and the after-effects of political transitions. As in many parts of the world, prices of everyday items, such as food, fuel, and public services, have been on the rise. At the same time, wages for the average worker have often failed to keep up, leading to widespread frustration. The political system has also seen changes, with different administrations promising reforms and improvements. However, many citizens felt those promises remained largely on paper and did not translate into visible benefits. Corruption allegations, unequal resource distribution, and a sense that politicians were living far better than ordinary folks created a climate of skepticism. People began to ask, are these leaders really here to serve us or to enrich themselves? Then Ibrahim Traoré emerged on the national stage, taking the reins of leadership with bold rhetoric about transparency and fairness. While it's still early in his tenure, many have been watching his actions to see if they match his words. With the announcement of these salary adjustments, Traoré has certainly given citizens plenty to talk about. One of the most striking aspects of his reform is the decision to cut salaries of ministers and politicians by 30%. Throughout history, we've seen politicians campaign on slogans of sacrifice, but once in office, they sometimes appear to prioritize their own benefits. By actively reducing the compensation package of those in top government positions, Traoré is making a statement that leadership should not be about personal gain. It should be about public service. This reduction does more than save public funds. It sends a strong symbolic message. Leading a country is a privilege, not a business opportunity. In nations around the world, not just in Africa, there's often a gulf between political elites and ordinary citizens. High salaries and benefits for top officials can foster resentment, especially when large segments of the population struggle to meet basic needs. Traoré's decision chips away at that gulf, suggesting that those in power should feel the same financial realities as the people they represent. Moreover, the money saved could be reallocated to critical sectors such as health, education, or infrastructure. While a salary cut alone won't solve every challenge overnight, it's a step in the right direction, providing momentum and a clear signal of a different, potentially more people-focused governance style. Equally noteworthy is the 50% salary increase for workers. Burkina Faso, like many other nations, has segments of its workforce that have long felt underpaid and undervalued. From public sector employees, such as teachers, healthcare workers, and civil servants, to private sector employees in crucial industries like agriculture and mining, many families have struggled to cover living costs. A 50% pay hike has immediate economic benefits for these workers. They can better afford rent, healthcare, and education for their children, giving them a sense of dignity and motivation. This injection of purchasing power can also stimulate the local economy. When people have more disposable income, they're likely to spend more on local businesses, whether it's the neighborhood vendor selling fresh produce, a small shop offering household goods, or a local school that can expand because more parents can afford fees. Over time, this broader spending cycle could create a multiplier effect, a situation where increased consumer spending generates additional business income, leading to more hiring and further spending. While the specific outcomes will depend on how effectively the government manages inflation and other economic variables, the 50% wage increase is a strong bid to uplift the standard of living for ordinary citizens. By refusing to accept any presidential salary, President Traoré is making an even larger statement about the nature of leadership. He is effectively aligning himself with a vision of public service that places the welfare of the people above personal financial gains. While critics might label this move as populist or purely symbolic, there's no doubt it has captured the public's attention. In Burkina Faso's political history, as well as in many nations worldwide, leaders typically earn significantly higher incomes compared to the average citizen. The presidency often comes with not only a salary but also significant perks, like housing allowances, personal security, travel budgets, and more. By foregoing his own salary, Traoré is telling the country, "I'm committed to a different way of doing things." For many citizens, this is a breath of fresh air. They see it as a break from tradition and a potential sign that corruption or mismanagement could be reduced under his watch. Critics might question whether this decision sets an unrealistic standard or whether it's sustainable long-term, but the immediate impact on the national psyche cannot be underestimated. When people see a leader willing to share their hardships, it often fosters trust. And in a place where trust in government can be fragile, that trust is an invaluable currency for any administration wishing to implement large-scale reforms. These reforms have done more than just shift dollars around. They have started reshaping how Burkinabe, the citizens of Burkina Faso, see themselves and how they are viewed on the global stage. When citizens witness a government taking concrete steps to prioritize their well-being, it can foster a sense of national pride. A population that sees its leader making financial sacrifices is more inclined to rally behind collective goals, whether those goals involve improving infrastructure, boosting education, or stabilizing the nation's security situation. Burkina Faso has sometimes struggled with its international reputation, especially in relation to security challenges. However, news of a leader reducing his own government's salaries and increasing those of ordinary workers can serve as a powerful rebranding. International investors and donors may take notice, considering the potential for more transparent and equitable governance. While external finance won't solve every challenge, a better reputation can certainly help in negotiations and partnerships. The immediate increase in wages and the potential reallocation of funds from reduced political salaries could spur local businesses to expand. This economic boost is important because it doesn't rely solely on foreign aid. More of it originates from domestic consumption. Big moves like salary adjustments often pave the way for broader changes. They create political momentum, making it easier for the government to pass legislation related to anti-corruption, public service overhaul, or judicial independence. If the public sees initial benefits, they're more likely to support additional reforms, generating a virtuous cycle of improvement. It's one thing to announce policies, but how are ordinary citizens and various stakeholders responding on the ground? Workers and labor unions have greeted these changes with enthusiasm. A 50% salary increase is a game-changer for families struggling to make ends meet. Union representatives have praised the administration, though they also note that continued dialogue is crucial to ensure the policy is properly implemented. There are calls for making sure wage increases are sustainable to avoid unchecked inflation. Small business owners are cautiously optimistic. They expect consumer spending to rise, which could help them improve their products and services. However, some worry about potential price hikes if inflation isn't managed well. Opposition politicians aren't completely on board. They might frame this move as a populist ploy, something done purely for public relations without addressing deeper structural issues. They might argue that a salary cut for politicians won't solve fundamental governance problems like corruption or nepotism. Nevertheless, it's difficult for them to dismiss the popularity these moves have generated. Economic experts are parsing the numbers to see how these new policies will affect Burkina Faso's long-term fiscal health. While many admit that the short-term benefits are clear, they emphasize the need for robust economic planning. Factors like inflation, currency stability, and government budgeting must be carefully managed to ensure these measures produce lasting prosperity. Overall, many people in Burkina Faso seem hopeful that this is the beginning of a new chapter in their country's governance, one where leadership and accountability go hand in hand. No policy is without its risks, and criticisms have emerged. It's essential to consider potential challenges such as inflation, long-term fiscal viability, political turmoil among the elite, and the need for deeper structural reforms. Even so, the momentum is undeniable. Traoré's moves resonate beyond the borders of Burkina Faso. Across Africa, and indeed around the world, citizens often criticize leaders for living lavishly while the masses suffer. Cutting top officials' pay and raising the wages of workers raises the question of whether other governments could adopt similar strategies. In many African countries, the wealth gap between politicians and average people is substantial. Corruption scandals and allegations of misusing state resources are frequent news items, eroding trust in public institutions. A shift in salaries or a move to forego certain luxurious benefits could help rebuild that trust. It might not solve every problem, but it signals a willingness to be accountable to the people. Discussions about Traoré's example are taking place in various African news outlets. Commentators wonder if a wave of similar reforms might pressure other leaders to adjust their policies. Whether this becomes a broader movement depends on how successfully Burkina Faso navigates the potential pitfalls and how effectively the government communicates the reasoning and results of these reforms. It's still early days, but the future looks cautiously promising. If the government can keep inflation in check, maintain fiscal responsibility, and demonstrate tangible improvements in public services, Burkina Faso could become an inspirational success story. The salary cuts for ministers and the wage increases for workers might open the door to a more inclusive economy, one that values teachers, healthcare workers, and civil servants as much as it values top government officials. Furthermore, if President Traoré's refusal to accept a presidential salary helps foster a culture of integrity at the highest levels, it could shift public perceptions of governance altogether. Citizens might feel more confident in participating in the political process, believing their voices truly matter. At the regional level, other countries will be watching how this unfolds. If these measures truly strengthen Burkina Faso's economy and social unity, they could serve as a blueprint for tackling corruption and mistrust elsewhere. A stable, thriving Burkina Faso would also contribute to greater stability in the region, potentially making West Africa more appealing to global investors and tourists, and better able to address challenges like terrorism, human trafficking, and climate change. President Ibrahim Traoré's decisions, reducing ministers' and politicians' salaries by 30%, raising workers' salaries by 50%, and refusing to accept a presidential salary, are nothing short of transformative in a region where political elites often seem distant from the realities of everyday life. These actions have resonated powerfully with citizens of Burkina Faso, offering hope that genuine, people-focused leadership may be possible. Of course, significant challenges remain, including concerns about inflation, long-term sustainability, and the need for deeper structural reforms. Still, the positive energy generated by these moves can lay the groundwork for other necessary changes. In a world where trust in public institutions can be scarce, acts of personal and collective sacrifice by those in power can reignite faith in the possibility of honest governance. For the people of Burkina Faso, the salary increases represent more than extra money in their pockets. They symbolize a shift toward an administration that listens to ordinary families. For the politicians and ministers, the pay cut is a strong reminder of why they hold public office in the first place, to serve the nation. And for President Traoré, refusing the presidential salary cements his commitment to a new style of leadership, one rooted in empathy and shared struggle with the people he governs. As we follow Burkina Faso's journey, let's keep in mind the broader lessons here. Real change often begins with bold actions that disrupt the status quo. The test for Traoré's government will be whether these initial reforms can be translated into a lasting transformation, one that stands as an example of ethical leadership and effective governance, both for the region and beyond. Only time will tell, but for now, the country stands at the cusp of a new era, brimming with possibility and hope. Thank you for tuning in, and if you found this discussion insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think President Traoré's reforms will lead to lasting change, or are they just symbolic gestures? Let's keep this conversation going as we watch how this story unfolds in Burkina Faso. Together, we can stay informed, inspired, and engaged in shaping the kind of leadership we want to see in Africa and around